you very much for being with us. On the ground in the Gaza Strip this Thursday, the killing of Palestinians by the Israeli army continues. This week, the policies of Benjamin Netanyahu in Gaza were qualified as a genocide by the international genocide scholars, adding a reasoned assessment to what others have been saying very loudly for almost 3 years. Dissent inside Israel has made Prime Minister Netanyahu hit out at protesters who were demanding an end to the war in Gaza. He's branded them as, and this is the word that he used, fascists. As families of the remaining Israeli hostages held by Hamas rallied near his home, Netanyahu claimed the ongoing mass demonstrations against his government were destructive and threatening and had crossed every boundary, he said. Netanyahu then facing ever-growing pressure from the tireless movement to end the war and bring the hostages back. But the government and military determined, it seems, to go ahead with a full-scale ground invasion of the north of the Gaza Strip. And don't forget, of course, it's been declared around Gaza City that that is now a zone affected by famine. Here at France 24, Siobhan Silk with this.
The boiling anger towards Benjamin Netanyahu and his government continues. On Wednesday, thousands of Israelis marched in a new day of protest amid fears the military's next steps in Gaza could put the remaining Israeli hostages in danger. They marched near the Prime Minister's residence in Jerusalem, prompting Netanyahu to go on the attack.
You talk about democracy, but you speak and act exactly like fascists. They threaten day after day to murder me, the Prime Minister, and my family. They've also said they would surround my home with a ring of fire, just like fascist militias.
Families of the hostages, 22 of whom are believed to be alive in Gaza, were outraged.
I heard that the Prime Minister has just issued a statement to the media that he fears for his life. I want to remind him that we fear for the lives of my son Matan, of Gali and Ziv Berman, of Ron Breslavsky, of Nimrod Cohen.
Shame on you, Prime Minister. Shame on you. I will not let you bring my son back in a plastic bag. This is a disgrace. How can you watch him die and do nothing? This is a Holocaust. It's on your watch.
But alongside those from the international community, Israelis' pleas and demands to end the war are falling on deaf ears. The Israeli military is readying a full-scale ground offensive in northern Gaza with the aim of taking over Gaza City. That's on top of the relentless bombardment and destruction, the famine, the almost 64,000 Palestinians killed, according to the Gaza health authorities. None of it has brought the remaining Israeli hostages home.
That was Siobhan Silk with that report. Let's bring in some guests to give us some context on the situation. Joining us here in the studio is Bertrand Besancenot, former French ambassador to Qatar and Saudi Arabia. And we're joined from the flotilla destined for the Gaza Strip by James Smith, who is a lecturer at UCL in London. James, great to see you there. If you can bear with me, I'm going to start with the former ambassador here in the studio because there is an issue involving diplomacy, which we need to bring up with you and try to get your take on the situation. Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Saar saying that any visit by Emmanuel Macron to Israel will be blocked, stopped, forbidden, unless France drops Palestinian state recognition. Give us your reaction to that, sir.
I think it is a ridiculous statement. Of course, nobody is expecting that France would change its policy because you have this policy from some members of the Israeli government putting pressure, threats. But of course, this is not very, very serious. We know very well that there will be this month, at the end of this month, this conference on the solution of two states, which is a joint initiative between Saudi Arabia and France. And I think this is a unique opportunity to put in the mind of the people that the quasi-majority of all countries in the world are recognizing the state of Palestine. And we have to rally the broadest possible coalition in order to make clear that there there is no other solution than the solution of two states. We know that, of course, this is not acceptable to Mr. Netanyahu and his government. We know also that even the American government is apparently giving a free hand to Mr. Netanyahu. But at some point, there will be a necessity to find a solution, and there is no other solution than the solution of two states. And this is why the Saudi-French initiative is very important, because we know that President Trump wants to have what he calls a coalition between Israel and the Gulf state in front of Iran. And for that reason, he finds that it would be a priority, it is a priority for his government to have the recognition of Israel by Saudi Arabia. But the Saudis know that they have a key card in their hand. And of course, the Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who will be the next king of Saudi Arabia, the next guardian of the Holy Mosque, wants to have something serious, significant for the Palestinians. So there will be, at some point, a negotiation between the Americans and the Saudis on how to find a proper solution. So it is important that we strengthen the Saudi hand in this negotiation by this initiative, where it will be clear to everybody that the quasi-majority of the world is in favor of this solution, and the other option is not a real one. And it is even dangerous for the future of Israel. So
There's I hear what you're saying, and it does stack up and make sense if you analyse it as a concept, but Benjamin Netanyahu has consistently ignored calls to stop what has been going on. And now it's classified as a genocide by international scholars. But other people have been saying that for a long, long time, that this is genocide against the Palestinian people. Is there any further pressure that can be brought to bear on Benjamin Netanyahu to make this stop?
Alors, there are a discussion among the European states nowadays to put, for example, sanctions on ministers or on settlers who are violent in the West Bank, or to suspend the association between the EU and Israel. Well, I'm not sure that even that will be seen as sufficient to... The problem is that the only person who can really make a pressure on Netanyahu and Israel is, of course, President Trump. Because, of course, Israel is depending a lot on the military and financial assistance of the US. Now, so what is the more important is to convince President Trump that if he wants to have the big contracts in the Gulf, if he wants to become one day a prix Nobel de la paix, there are no other ways than to find a fair and durable solution on the Palestinian issue. Otherwise, it won't work.
Indeed, he says he's sold 7 wars or stopped 7 wars, but if you analyse it, he's not really stopped any of them for definite, and he's made no impact in Ukraine. He's making no impact on the situation in Gaza. Mr. Ambassador, bear with me for a second. I'll bring in from the flotilla in Catania in Italy, James Smith. James is a lecturer in Humanitarian Policy and Practice at UCL in London. James, you're about to set off, as I understand it. I hope you have a safe voyage. Tell us about what the voyage is about. Tell us what you're hoping to achieve. But most of all, tell us where you think there could be some kind of impact made by this towards resolving what is going on in the Gaza Strip, sir. Over to you.
Let me tell you a little bit about the flotilla, and then I have a few reflections on what's just been said. So we're talking here about approximately 50 boats, participants from over 40 different countries, approximately 500 people that are registered to participate. And then, of course, tens of thousands internationally that have shown support in one way or another, if not more, of course. This is the latest and the largest in a long line of civilian-led flotilla initiatives that have attempted to break Israel's illegal siege on Gaza, on the Gaza Strip. This is a coalition of several citizen-led initiatives, civilian-led initiatives. I can see some of the footage there of some of the boats, big and small, that, as I say, are attempting to break the illegal siege, bring humanitarian aid into Gaza, but also demonstrate really what is politically possible. I think the question we need to be asking ourselves as we look at this footage is, why has it fallen to regular folks, citizens from, as I say, 40 plus different countries, to do the work of states, which are legally and politically and, of course, morally obliged to do this work themselves, to break Israel's illegal siege, to force Israel to uphold its obligations under international law. With respect to other pressure points, I mean, the EU-Israel trade agreement, Israel has been in breach of Article 2 of the trade agreement the moment that it was signed. This is the article that requires that Israel is compliant with its obligations and upholds human rights. Well, of course, this is an illegal occupation of Palestine. So the moment that the agreement came into effect, it was broken. Still, that agreement is in place. We have countries the world over, the British government, my own government, that have suspended fewer than 10% of their arms licenses with Israel. We have now growing calls that effectively are making very clear that European politicians, American politicians, in fact, many politicians the world over, are complicit and may well be held legally responsible for Israel's commission of atrocity crimes, the atrocity crime of genocide in Gaza. So it's now falling to regular folks, citizens and civilians from the world over, to take action and to take matters into their own hands. As we say here, when global leaders fail, citizens of the world set sail, and that's exactly what's happening now with the flotilla.
What have you got on board? Supplies, aid, a lot of goodwill, obviously.
A huge amount of goodwill, political determination, the weight of compliance with international law behind us, of course. Francesca Albanese has been very clear that the flotilla adheres to international law. And yes, humanitarian aid, food, water, medicines. I joined the last flotilla, the Handala flotilla in Gallipoli a few weeks back, and I was on the boat there. This was a boat, of course, that was illegally boarded and intercepted in international waters, the crew illegally detained and imprisoned in Israel before they were all eventually released. And that was a boat that was carrying nappies, medical equipment, water and food. What threat to Israel the nappies and food pose? Unless, of course, your objective is to intentionally starve a population. And indeed, that's what we're now seeing in Gaza. The flotilla is not about the people on it. It is about the conditions that Israel is imposing on the Palestinian people. And those are the conditions of genocide and the conditions of famine and the conditions of ethnic cleansing.
James, I'm meant to play devil's advocate and give you a counter-argument, but I can't. Thank you, sir, for joining us and explaining what is happening where you are. Safe journey to you. I hope all goes well at sea and the flotilla gets to give the essential supplies to the people in need. Thank you, James Smith, lecturer in humanitarian policy and practice at UCL in London, about to set sail for Gaza. And thanks also to our guest here in the studio, the former ambassador to Qatar and Saudi Arabia, Bertrand Besancenot. Thank you, sir, for your analysis and your thoughts on the diplomatic and other aspects of this story. It's a pleasure to get to both sides so well expressed, and we're, of course, watching for all developments as we can get them. Thanks, James, and thank you, Bertrand.
Thank you. Thank you very much.